to share something with you. That might put me in a very negative light, yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from here, and this has been like a therapy session.
This is KUGAN CASSIUS for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. It is Wednesday morning here in Abu Dhabi. Delighted to be joined by Jessica McCASKILL. How are you?
I'm good. I'm ready to fight. I've been here for a few weeks now, and I've adjusted to the weather, the food, the time, and now it's fight time.
I was talking to Chantelle yesterday. I only got here Sunday, and I was kind of comparing that, which is different, obviously, with the time difference as well from where you live to where Chantelle lives. But you thought it was best for you to kind of come here for a whole month, pretty much, and get used to the weather and also that huge time difference, which is bigger than that of the UK.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we left on a Tuesday night in Chicago, and we got here 24 hours later on a Wednesday night with the 13-hour flight and the 9-hour time difference. So we like to take our time and plan ahead for the fight as much as we can. You know, I quit my day job so I can be able to travel and do whatever is necessary to have the best fight possible, and that's what we aim for.
What is your day job?
I don't have one anymore.
No, the one that you previously had, sorry.
I used to be in investment banking for about 10 years in Chicago with 2 different firms, and that's not even what I went to school for, but I just kind of fell into finance, and I've been doing that for a long time, and also with boxing, so it would be workout, go to work, workout at lunch, go back to work, workout after work. So it was just kind of constant, and I got to a place where I wanted to make that big change just to try to launch myself to the next level in boxing. So I quit my job.
Okay, but I suppose that information is going to come in handy because no one's going to screw you on accounts or taxes or anything, are they? You're going to know exactly what the fuck you're doing.
Yes. I'm very knowledgeable in all of the business that I handle. I do a lot of it myself, and Rick and I, you know, we make sure that we have the best team no matter what it is.
Promoters are watching this going, oh, right, okay, we're going to make sure that,
yeah, doing our best.
I want to kind of go back to that time I was there at that fight with Katie, and it seems that from there, not just your career, but you as a fighter have completely kind of, not completely different, but we've seen kind of your improvement in quite a few aspects, and I think that's fair to say, isn't it, since that Katie Taylor fight?
Yeah, I mean, from the very beginning of my career, I think every step that we took was not so much of a step, but more of leaps and bounds. I mean, the first fight that I had, the other girl, she had boxing matches, she had MMA matches, so I was the underdog and went into that with a knockout, fought a couple more people who had world titles and finished them off, and then was able to get to the Katie Taylor fight, fighting in another country, fighting for a world title myself, and put on a great show for 10 rounds, and then from there, you know, just continuing to fight for world titles. Haven't lost since 2017, fighting people who are undefeated. So it's just kind of like every time we fight somebody, we're taking really big steps to the higher level.
Because obviously, you know, we've obviously followed Katie's career since the amateurs and what she's done as a professional, and what's notable is that since that fight, since you've progressed on in your career, it makes her win over you look 20 times better than what it was. It was always going to be a tough fight back then, but I think kind of when we've seen your 2 fights with Breakhouse and etc., that's kind of probably even gives Katie more satisfaction that she kind of had that win then before this period of your career.
Well, I would definitely say she was better off having that fight then, just because bringing up amateur career, I only had about 25 amateur fights. So my fight, I started a lot older and everything was very fast. And so moved from amateurs to pros with only about 25 amateur fights, and then fought Katie with maybe about 7 professional fights, something around there. So meeting now would be a completely different story. And, you know, it's just kind of, it's good for her to have had that fight then, because like you said, I've grown so much as a fighter over the last years. Just fighting the caliber of people that I fought, you always leave the fight with so much more wisdom and seeing things differently and just going about things differently. So I'm just a completely different fighter now.
Aside from those opponents, and we'll talk about the 2 fights with Cecilia Breakhouse, but apart from the level of opponents, what's been the main difference for you that has kind of made that progression into you being a better fighter?
Training with Rick Ramos is crazy, intense, nonstop. It has to be consistent no matter what is going on in your life. It's, show up at the gym, not on time, early, be ready to go. Doesn't matter if you forgot your wraps, your gloves, your shoes, whatever, like everything has to still go on. So you just arrange your life around boxing. Like I said before, I quit my job, so my whole life is boxing right now. I'm dedicating, sacrificing everything for this sport so that I can do the best that I can, so I can leave a mark, so I can inspire other people, whether they're boxers or not. So it's just the training and the things that he instills in us, mentally, the conversations that we have as a team. A lot of people don't have boxing teams. They're just like, I'm the boxer, and, you guys do what I say, whereas we have a lot of boxers at Body Shop Boxing Club, and we're a team, and we do things together, and when we have fights, they come, or I go to their fights, so we have a team atmosphere, and I think that's what a lot of people are missing.
This is something that I will speak to Rick about in another interview, but he did put a post out over the last couple of days highlighting his thoughts on opponents holding you. Sometimes, again, to the casual fan watching your fights, people may not pick up on this, but it's something that he's obviously highlighted in 4 or 5 different fights. So I just wanted your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that was made up of 200 different clips of people holding me. 200 clips and maybe about 4 fights, which is absolutely insane. It's really difficult to fight and navigate through. And it's like when we spar, people don't hold when I spar. We don't teach that in our gym. And so it's like you almost have to be prepared for it before it happens, because it's not something that we really train for. The fights, I guess, are the training for something like that. But, when you see it all compacted like that, you kind of understand it. But when you see it in a fight, you just think, oh, Jessica's wild and she doesn't have any skill and she's like really aggressive and rough. And it's just like, first of all, this is boxing. This is what we came here to do. Second of all, if you want to hold and you don't want to fight, then, just don't show up. Like, this is what we came here to do, punch each other in the face, not slow dance.
Within your camp, if this is a thing, and obviously you're saying there's over 200 clips, etc., is that something that you will get your sparring partners to particularly do with you in those situations? Because it seems a prominent thing that happens in your fights from your side. So is that something that you would do in training, where to get people to effectively hold you?
I think there's different training skills that we'll go over. Like, there's things that you can do on the bag. There's things that you can do with the guy that holds mitts, things like that. And we have sparring partners that come in from other gyms and things like that. So we don't say like, hey, don't hold. We just let them do whatever they're going to do, and then we fight that off. So there are people that may come in with a little bit of holding, and the goal is just to keep them far enough away from you so that they don't hold. So there's some things that you can do with like your mitt holder and things like that, but it's not like we have somebody come in and say like, hey, you hold this whole round, nothing like that.
Okay, I was just checking. When I was talking to Chantel yesterday, she kind of echoed, and you could probably understand this well, her frustration over waiting for this fight when this tournament that HEARN had kind of announced from whenever a year ago, etc. She didn't believe like this kind of opportunity would come because of there was a delay there. So, I just wanted your take on that, really, Jessica.
I mean, this is a really good thing for her to have to experience when it comes to boxing, or maybe more specifically female boxing. Sometimes there just aren't enough females to keep everything going at a pace that you would like. At the beginning of my career, I was fighting every quarter, and that was great. 4 times a year, that's kind of what you want. You stay in shape, you have something to look forward to. And then at this level, you fight maybe once or twice a year. And so it's just kind of the waiting game, and that gives you patience, and that builds you mentally and makes you a little bit tougher. So this is good for her to have to go through. I went through the same thing. COVID, I was supposed to fight Cecilia Breakhouse in April. COVID hit in March, and then they just said, hey, this is postponed. They didn't give us a date until later, and then found out it was in August. So then it's like right when you're scaling down for camp and getting ready for the fight, this whole thing erupts, and then you just go back into training full speed, and you don't really know, what you're going to do next. So you just have to be really mentally strong, and it's not an easy thing to do. So I've experienced the same thing, or with the supposed tournament that we were supposed to have with Cecilia, me, Amanda Serrano, and Katie, and then that switched to Amanda and Delphine, and then Katie won her fight, and then I won my fight, and then all of a sudden it disappeared. So it was just like, okay, so Katie doesn't want to fight, so I don't know. So I understand like waiting and anticipating things to happen, and it didn't happen. It just, if you can withstand all of that, it just makes you a stronger fighter.
How do you rate Chantelle Cameron as a fighter?
I probably don't rate her as a fighter. I don't think she's had any decent opposition. I don't really see any skills that I would either like, hey, oh, that's good, I should take something away from that, or like, oh, I should look out for that. I don't really see any of that. So she's got to show me on Saturday.
Yeah, okay, all right. This is your opinion, it's fair enough. So yeah, Abu Dhabi here, obviously Saturday night, it's Wednesday, so 3 days away, but yeah, you're kind of now, I suppose, after being here for over 3 weeks, you're kind of used to climate, like we talked about earlier, time change, etc. So yeah, you're all good for fighting here Saturday.
Yeah, at this point, the Wednesday going into the fight, there's a lot of just business that you have to take care of. There's media things that you have to show up for, the workouts. The press conference, I believe, is tomorrow, and then the weigh-ins, and then it's game time.
Absolutely. It's always difficult, obviously, talking to you about anything else other than the task ahead of you. And we know, obviously, you'll be completely focused on Chantelle Cameron this Saturday. But just as an after question, I'm assuming at some point is that rematch likely to happen between you and Taylor?
I feel like if Katie wanted to fight, we would have done it by now. I mean, I've said multiple times to her manager, to her promoter, which is Eddie, to media that, I would take that fight, and, she's just picking other people and going 10 rounds with people that she probably shouldn't be going 10 rounds with. I would expect more from her as a fighter, but she seems more on the decline. It just seems like she's ready to maybe retire, and, we should let that girl go out in one piece. And, so I'm looking more for another UK fighter, Terry Harper. We've talked to her team, and, we've been moving weights lately. We've been just really testing what we can do, and I have not gone up to 54 yet as a pro, so that could be the next challenge, and maybe look for a triple undisputed getting past Saturday. Obviously, that goes well, then look for a triple undisputed at 154.
Yeah, talking about Terry Harper, obviously the girl that took Terry's title originally was Alicia Baumgardner, who is in town. She was at the launch event yesterday. Terry Harper now has gone and beaten Hannah Rankin in that time. Did you watch that fight, Jessica?
Yes, I did watch that fight because we had eyes on Hannah Rankin. We had talked to her team, and we're looking for maybe doing that in the future, but we were hoping to get the Chantelle fight first and then maybe experiment with going up in weight. But Terry beat me to the punch, literally, and she got the Hannah Rankin fight, so that was awesome. Did see Terry using her feet, moving a lot on Hannah, and she got the victory, obviously.
But all this stuff is kind of irrelevant now. Maybe it makes sense, and we can talk about it more after Saturday. But you've got a job to do on Saturday, and that you're confident that you're going to do that. Yeah,
I'm really confident, and just, my skills. People ask me a lot about Chantelle, and I don't think it's more about Chantelle. I think it's more about me making sure I'm 100% ready, making sure my nutrition and my fitness is on point, my training, my communication with my team. Everything that we're doing is completely on point, as it should be. And so it's more about me. As long as I'm 100%, it doesn't really matter what the other person brings in. And that's just kind of the mindset that we always have. So, not looking past this weekend at all, but we do have a few plans that we would like to execute. So first things first, Chantelle, and then we move on.
Women's boxing is absolutely flying, isn't it? I mean, we saw a couple of weeks ago Clarissa Shields beating Savannah Marshall, and obviously Alicia beating Michaela Mayer. I mean, these are kind of the elite, and there's no difference between you and Cameron this week.
Yeah, I was really excited to see a lot of the the media with the Alicia Baumgartner fight, just because they brought the anticipation. They had like a really big feud between them, so it was really, that was an exciting fight for me to like watch. And they also went through the same thing where they had to wait to fight because, you know, the queen passed away, and so they had to reschedule everything. They were right there at the brink of the fight, and then they had to reschedule everything, push it back. So that could have possibly changed the outcome of the fights. You know, that could have, you know, somebody could have blown up in weight, or somebody could have had like, you know, mental issues, and instead, you know, everybody just kind of seemed like they were ready to go, which I was proud of both sides for each of them to be ready to go for those fights. So I was really happy for Alicia Baumgartner. I mean, Clarissa Shields, freaking 3-time undisputed. That's insane. Like, that's goals that I have, you know. So now it's like, what's she going to do next? So, you know, it's really good for female boxing.
You make a good point about that, because even though there was only I think 3 to 4 week delay, it would have been interesting to see whether those fights in particular would have panned out exactly the same way, because I don't believe they would have. I'm not saying that the winners wouldn't have come out, but you're right, there could have been certain factors that could have affected either way, especially the Baumgartner and Mayer fight, which people found closer than obviously the Shields and Marshall fight. But yeah, that's an interesting point you make there.
Yeah, I think there can be any kind of hiccup to make a ripple effect in your training or in fight week or anything like that. So that's why your whole team has to be on the same page at all times. Everybody's focused. You know, you don't have one guy out like going to party and going to get drunk or going to see the amusement parks. Like, everybody, if the fighter's at home, then everybody's close by. Everybody, you know, puts that person first in priority. Even when I'm not fighting and somebody else is fighting and I'm part of their team, it's the same thing. You know, I hold the spit bucket. I don't really do anything super special, but if they need to talk, if they need advice, if they need water, if I need to run somewhere, I'm that person for them. And so thankfully, my whole team, they're that person for me.
I think that's called the butterfly effect.
Yeah, we could have seen some really crazy butterfly effects with those fights. So maybe in another dimension, something else happened. But, you know, they turned out well. The fights were good for female boxing.
Absolutely. Well, Jessica, I appreciate your time. Yeah, wish you the best of luck on Saturday. We've got the workouts. God, it's only Wednesday. Workouts today, and obviously the press conference tomorrow, Friday weigh-in, and then, yeah, showtime.
Yes, time to go. So everybody make sure you tune into The Zone, because I want to put on a good show for everybody.
Jessica McCASKILL, thank you very much for talking to IFL TV, and yeah, we'll catch up with you again very soon.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to share something with you that might put me in a very negative light, yeah.
Relationships are not my forte.
See if someone grabbed up my wife or something completely different ballgame.
I'll walk away from here, and this has been like a therapy session.